I woke up that Tuesday morning thinking it would be just another ordinary day in my perfectly organized life. The October sun filtered through the curtains of our Greenwich bedroom, and Marcus was already downstairs having his usual black coffee and reading the Wall Street Journal. We'd been married for 28 years, built an $8 million real estate empire together, raised two beautiful children who were now making their own way in the world. From the outside, we looked like the perfect Connecticut couple, the kind that other people envied at charity galas and country club events. But that morning, something had been nagging at me for weeks. Our attic. Marcus had been deflecting my suggestions to organize it for months now, always with increasingly transparent excuses. "It's fine the way it is," he'd say, or "I'll get to it next month," or my personal favorite, "Why fix what isn't broken?" The more he resisted, the more determined I became. I'm a woman who built a multi-million-dollar business from a small agency my father left me. I don't back down easily. So that morning, I decided enough was enough. I finished my Earl Grey tea, put on comfortable clothes suitable for dusty work, and called Helena, our housekeeper. "Helena, could you help me with the attic today?" She'd been working for us for 6 years, a Brazilian immigrant, quiet and professional, someone I'd always treated with respect and paid well above market rate. "Of course, Mrs. Ashford," she answered, but I noticed something odd in her voice, a slight hesitation. Was it fear? I dismissed it as my imagination. Marcus had already left for his office in Manhattan by the time Helena and I climbed the narrow stairs to the attic. The space smelled of old wood and forgotten memories, boxes of Christmas decorations, my children's childhood toys, photo albums from when we were young and genuinely happy, or at least when I thought we were happy. "Let's start with that corner," I suggested, pointing to the far end where several old trunks sat covered in dust. Helena nodded but moved slowly, almost reluctantly. I started sorting through a box of Claire's old school projects while Helena worked near those trunks. Then I heard it. A sharp intake of breath, a sound of pure shock. I turned around and saw Helena crouched in front of an old leather trunk I'd never seen before. The lid was slightly open, and she was holding something in her trembling hands. Papers, photographs. Her face had gone completely white. Not pale, white. Like every drop of blood had drained from her body in an instant. Her hands were shaking so violently that the papers rustled audibly in the silent attic. "Helena?" I stood up, my heart starting to beat faster. "What is it?" She looked up at me, and the expression in her eyes made my stomach drop. It was terror. Pure, absolute terror. And something else, pity. She was looking at me with devastating pity. "Mrs. Ashford?" Her voice came out as a strangled whisper. Her legs were trembling so badly I thought she might collapse. "Mrs. Ashford, you need to leave this house. Right now." "What?" I moved closer, my mind struggling to process what I was seeing. "What are you talking about?" "Please." She stood up unsteadily, still clutching those papers, her entire body shaking. "You need to get out of this house immediately. Don't look back, and don't tell your husband. Don't tell Mr. Ashford anything." The urgency in her voice, the raw fear in her eyes, the way her legs could barely support her weight, it all triggered something primal in me. This wasn't drama. This wasn't exaggeration. Something was genuinely, terribly wrong. "Helena, you're scaring me," I said, my own voice starting to shake. "What did you find?" She stepped aside, and I looked into the open trunk. At first, my brain couldn't process what I was seeing. It was like looking at puzzle pieces that didn't fit together. Photographs scattered inside. Marcus in casual clothes I'd never seen him wear. Marcus with his arm around a little girl, a baby, a toddler, a child in elementary school, a preteen. The same girl growing up through the years. She had his eyes, his chin, the same way his mouth curved when he smiled. My hands reached into the trunk automatically, pulling out more evidence my mind was still refusing to accept. Legal documents, DNA paternity test results. Father, Marcus James Ashford. Child, Serena Marie Walsh. Probability of paternity, 99.99%. Bank statements from an account I'd never heard of. Monthly transfers of $4,500, going back 13 years, letters in handwriting I didn't recognize. Marcus, Serena needs new school supplies. Marcus, the piano lessons are more expensive this year. Marcus, when are you going to tell your wife about us? The world tilted. My vision blurred at the edges. I felt my hands go ice cold, my heart hammering so hard I could hear it in my ears. Mrs. Ashford, please. Helena's voice broke through my shock. She grabbed my arm with surprising strength. You can't be here when he comes home. It's not safe. Not safe? I looked at her, my brain still struggling to function. What do you mean, not safe? Her eyes darted toward the attic stairs, as if expecting Marcus to appear at any moment. A few weeks ago, I had to clean his office. I accidentally found some papers, and he saw me looking at them. He didn't yell. He didn't get angry. He just smiled and said very quietly that it would be a shame if immigration found out about irregularities in my visa. He said it would be terrible if I got deported and couldn't send money to my children in Brazil anymore. The way she said it, the quiet terror underneath her words, made everything click into place. Marcus wasn't just a cheater. He was dangerous when threatened. He was the kind of man who would destroy a vulnerable woman's life to protect his secrets. How long have you known? I asked, my voice sounding distant and strange to my own ears. Only a few weeks, she whispered. I didn't know how to tell you. I was so scared. But today, when you said you wanted to clean the attic, I knew you would find out. And I knew I couldn't let him hide this anymore. But Mrs. Ashford, he can't know that you discovered this now. You need a plan. You need time. Please, trust me. I looked down at the photographs in my hands. Marcus holding a baby girl in a hospital. Marcus at a birthday party with this child blowing out candles. Marcus at what looked like a school recital. This girl in a piano performance dress. 13 years. While I was building our business, hosting dinner parties, being the perfect wife, he was building an entire parallel family. The most devastating part wasn't even the infidelity. It was the calculation behind it, the elaborate planning, the secret bank accounts, the systematic lies. The way he'd threatened Helena to keep her silent. I felt bile rising in my throat. My perfect life, my perfect marriage, my perfect husband. All of it was a carefully constructed lie. Mrs. Ashford, please, Helena begged again, her voice cracking. He'll be home in a few hours. You need to leave now and act like nothing happened. Get somewhere safe. Think about what to do. But you cannot confront him unprepared. Something in her desperate urgency broke through my paralysis. She was risking everything to warn me, her job, her visa, her ability to support her children thousands of miles away. The least I could do was listen. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and quickly took pictures of everything. The paternity test, the bank statements, the photographs, the letters. My hands were trembling so badly I had to steady them against my knee, but I got clear shots of everything. Thank you, I whispered to Helena. Thank you for telling me. Tears were streaming down her face now. I'm so sorry, Mrs. Ashford. You've always been so kind to me. I couldn't let him keep lying to you. I carefully put everything back in the trunk exactly as we'd found it. If Marcus checked, he needed to think his secrets were still safe. Then I grabbed my coat from the bedroom, my purse, my car keys. My movements felt mechanical, like I was watching someone else operate my body. Helena stood at the top of the attic stairs, still pale and trembling. Where will you go? I don't know, I admitted. Somewhere to think, somewhere he won't look for me. Be careful, she said softly. And Mrs. Ashford, when you're ready to fight back, I'll testify. I'll tell everything I know. I don't care what happens to me. The fact that this woman, who had so much to lose, was willing to risk everything for me, a woman who was essentially her employer, made my throat tight with emotion. Thank you, Helena. I won't forget this. I walked down the stairs, through our beautiful home, filled with expensive furniture and carefully curated art, past the kitchen where we'd shared thousands of meals, out the back door to avoid any nosy neighbors who might mention seeing me leave in the middle of the day. I got into my Mercedes, started the engine, and drove. I had no destination in mind. I just drove until I found myself in the parking lot of a shopping center 30 minutes away, far enough that no one we knew would see me. Then, finally, alone in my car with tinted windows, I let myself feel it. The devastation, the betrayal, the shattering of everything I thought I knew about my life. 28 years of marriage, and 13 of those years he'd been maintaining a secret family. A daughter. A child who was 12 years old now, who I'd never known existed. How many times had he looked me in the eye and lied? How many family dinners had we shared while he was planning his next visit to them? How many times had he told me he loved me while transferring $4,500 a month to the mother of his secret child? I looked at the photos on my phone again, really looked at them. The girl, Serena, had his features unmistakably. She existed. She was real. She was growing up knowing her father only in secret, in shadows, as something shameful to be hidden. And the money, nearly $500,000 over 13 years. Our money. Money from the business I'd built, being funneled to maintain his lie. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Meeting running late, will be home around 7. Love you. Love you. Those words that I'd believed for almost 3 decades now felt like acid. How dare he? How dare he send me casual, love you texts while maintaining an entire secret life? I sat in that parking lot for 2 hours, my mind racing through everything. Every business trip, every late night at the office, every time he'd been distant or distracted, every time he'd insisted on handling certain finances alone. It all made horrifying sense now, but as the shock slowly transformed into something else, something colder and more focused, I realized something important. Helena was right. Confronting him now, emotional and unprepared, would be a mistake. Marcus was calculating enough to maintain this deception for over a decade. He was ruthless enough to threaten a vulnerable woman to protect his secrets. He wouldn't go down easily. If I was going to do this, I needed to do it right. I needed evidence. I needed a strategy. I needed to be smarter than him. And I would be, because he'd made one critical mistake. He'd underestimated me. He'd assumed I'd never find out, and even if I did, that I'd be too emotional, too dependent, too weak to fight back. He was about to learn exactly how wrong he was. I needed to call someone I could trust absolutely. My hands were still shaking as I scrolled through my contacts and pressed Claire's name. My daughter. My 26-year-old firstborn who lived in Boston working as a marketing consultant. She answered on the second ring. Mom, what's up? Claire, my voice cracked despite my best efforts to sound normal. Can you come to Greenwich? Now? It's important. There was a pause. Claire had always been perceptive, even as a child. Mom, are you okay? You sound weird. I'm not okay, I admitted, feeling tears threatening again. But I can't talk about it on the phone. Can you come? I'm leaving right now, she said immediately. Where are you? Shopping center parking lot on Route 1, near the Barnes & Noble. I'll be there in 2 hours. Don't move. While I waited, my mind kept drifting back through the years. How had I missed it? How had I been so blind? Marcus and I met in college when I was 22 years old. He was studying finance, I was in business administration. He was charming, ambitious, and made me feel like together we could conquer anything. We got married the year after graduation in a beautiful ceremony at his family's country club in Connecticut. Everyone said we were the perfect couple. For the first 12 years of our marriage, I thought we were happy. We had Claire when I was 28, Daniel 2 years later. I worked at my father's small real estate agency while raising the kids. Marcus climbed the ladder at an investment firm in Manhattan. We bought our first house in Greenwich, not the mansion we live in now, but a comfortable colonial that we could afford. Then my father died suddenly when I was 35. Heart attack. He left me his small real estate agency, 3 employees, a decent client list, but nothing spectacular. I threw myself into it, partly to deal with grief, partly because I'd always had a knack for real estate. That's when I discovered I had a real talent for it. Within 5 years, I'd expanded from 3 employees to 15. I specialized in luxury properties, developed relationships with wealthy clients, and became known as the go-to realtor for high-end homes in Connecticut. By the time I was 45, the agency was worth millions. Marcus had always been supportive, or at least that's what I thought. He attended my business events, smiled proudly when people congratulated me on my success, told everyone how proud he was of his accomplished wife. But now I could see it differently. He'd benefited tremendously from my success. We'd upgraded to a $3.2 million mansion, vacations in Europe, country club memberships, the best schools for our kids, all primarily funded by my business. And apparently, $4,500 a month for his secret family. 13 years ago, I would have been 43. Claire was 13, Daniel was 11. I was in the middle of the biggest expansion of my business, working 70-hour weeks, traveling to property showings, networking constantly. That's when it must have started. When I was too busy, too focused on building our future, too trusting to notice that my husband was building a separate life entirely. I tried to remember that year specifically. Had there been signs? Marcus had started taking more business trips to Stamford, only 20 minutes away. But he'd stay overnight sometimes, claiming early morning meetings. He'd gotten a new phone and was suddenly protective of it. He joined a gym and started working out regularly, came home looking refreshed instead of tired. At the time, I'd thought he was just taking better care of himself. Maybe going through an early midlife crisis, but handling it healthily. I'd been proud of him for focusing on his fitness. God, I was so stupid. No, I stopped that thought immediately. I wasn't stupid. I was trusting my husband of 15 years at that point. That's not stupidity, that's normal. What isn't normal is maintaining an elaborate double life for over a decade. The last few years made horrible sense now too. Marcus had been increasingly distant, not mean, not overtly neglectful, just absent. Even when he was physically present, he seemed mentally somewhere else. I'd attributed it to work stress, to us being an older married couple who'd naturally grown more independent. How many Sunday afternoons had he claimed he needed to go into the office when he was actually visiting them? How many times had he said he was playing golf with clients when he was attending his other daughter's piano recitals? The betrayal felt like it was expanding in my chest, making it hard to breathe. Claire arrived exactly 2 hours later. She pulled into the parking spot next to me, got out of her car, and immediately came to my passenger side. I unlocked the door and she slid in. "Mom, what's going on? You're scaring me." I looked at my daughter, my beautiful, intelligent daughter who looked so much like I did at her age, and felt my throat close up. How do you tell your child that her father isn't who she thought he was? "I found something today," I managed to say. "In the attic." I handed her my phone with the photos pulled up, watched her face as she scrolled through them, watched confusion turn to shock, shock turn to horror. Is this Dad?" she whispered, staring at a photo of Marcus holding a baby. "Yes." "Who's the baby?" "Your half-sister, apparently. Her name is Serena Walsh. She's 12 years old now." Claire's hand flew to her mouth. Oh my God, Mom." She kept scrolling. The paternity test, the bank statements, the letters. With each new piece of evidence, her face got paler. 13 years, she said finally, her voice hollow. "He's been doing this for 13 years. While I was building the business, while we were being the perfect family, while he was telling me he loved me every single day." Claire looked at me with tears streaming down her face. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault, sweetheart. I know, but... She wiped her face roughly. This means I have a sister I've never met. A 12-year-old girl who's been growing up thinking her father is ashamed of her. Because that's what this means, right? He kept her secret because he was ashamed. I hadn't thought about it from that angle. The child, Serena, was innocent in all this. She was growing up knowing she was someone's secret, someone's mistake to be hidden away. What must that do to a child's self-worth? What are you going to do? Claire asked. I don't know yet, I admitted. Helena, our housekeeper, she's the one who warned me. She told me to leave the house immediately and not tell your father I found out. She said it wasn't safe. What does that mean, not safe? Claire's eyes widened. I told her about Helena's confession, about Marcus threatening her with deportation if she revealed what she knew. Watched my daughter's expression shift from shock to something harder. He threatened Helena? Her voice was cold now. He threatened to destroy her life to protect his lie? Yes. Then Helena's right. You can't go back there and confront him. Not yet. You need a lawyer. You need a plan. My 26-year-old daughter was thinking more clearly than I was. You're right. Do you know any divorce lawyers? Catherine Hartman, I said immediately. She handled the divorce for Susan Matthews 2 years ago. Susan's ex-husband tried to hide assets and Catherine found everything. She's ruthless. Call her. Right now. I pulled up Catherine's number. I'd kept it in my contacts after seeing how effectively she'd worked for Susan. It was almost 5 o'clock, but I tried anyway. She answered on the 3rd ring. Catherine Hartman. Catherine, this is Vivian Ashford. We met at the charity gala 2 years ago. You handled Susan Matthews' divorce. Of course, Vivian. What can I do for you? I need a divorce attorney. And I need one who can handle a complicated case involving hidden assets and infidelity. There was a brief pause. I can see you tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock at my office. Bring everything you have. Thank you, I managed to say. Vivian, Catherine's voice was kind but firm. Whatever you've discovered, don't confront your husband yet. Don't let him know you know. Can you do that? Yes. Good. See you tomorrow. I hung up and looked at Claire. I have to go home. I have to act like nothing happened. Can you do that? Claire asked gently. Could I sit across from Marcus at dinner and make small talk, knowing what I knew? Could I sleep in the same house as him without screaming? I have to, I said, because if he suspects I know, he'll start hiding assets and covering his tracks. I need the element of surprise. Claire squeezed my hand. I'll come with you. I'll tell Dad I decided to visit for a few days. That way you're not alone with him. The relief I felt was overwhelming. Thank you, sweetheart. We drove back to Greenwich in separate cars. When we pulled into the driveway of our beautiful mansion, this house that was built on lies, Marcus's car was already there. Time to put on the performance of my life. Walking into that house felt like stepping into a stranger's life. Everything looked the same. The marble floors I'd picked out myself, the chandelier we'd bought in Venice, the family photos lining the hallway. But it all felt like set pieces in an elaborate stage play. Marcus came out of his study when he heard us enter. Claire, what a wonderful surprise. He hugged our daughter, genuine pleasure on his face. What brings you down from Boston? Just missed you guys, Claire said smoothly. I saw her jaw tighten slightly, but her smile stayed perfectly in place. Thought I'd take a few days off. That's wonderful, sweetheart. Marcus turned to me, leaning in for his customary kiss on the cheek. I forced myself not to flinch. His lips touched my skin, and I felt physically ill. How was your day, Viv? Fine, I managed to say, keeping my voice light. Did some organizing. Nothing exciting. You look tired, he said, his brow furrowing with what looked like genuine concern. The audacity of it. This man who'd been lying to me for 13 years, showing concern for my well-being. "Why don't you relax while I make dinner?" "That sounds good," I said. I went upstairs to our bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed, my whole body trembling. I could hear Marcus in the kitchen, humming as he cooked. Humming. Like he didn't have a care in the world. Like he hadn't just spent the day maintaining his web of lies. Claire came up a few minutes later and sat next to me. "You're doing great, Mom," she whispered. "Just a little longer." Dinner was torture. Marcus had made pasta carbonara, one of his specialties. We sat around our dining room table like we'd done thousands of times before, and he talked about his day at work, some deal he was closing, asking Claire about her job in Boston. I watched him carefully. The way he laughed at Claire's stories, the way he reached over to refill my wine glass, the way he seemed so absolutely normal. How was he so good at this? How many years of practice does it take to become this comfortable with deception? "Earth to Vivian," Marcus said, smiling at me. "You seem a million miles away." "Sorry," I said quickly. "Just thinking about work." "Always working," he said affectionately. "That's my Vivian." My Vivian. The possessiveness of it made my stomach turn. That night, lying in bed next to him, listening to him breathe in his sleep, was one of the longest nights of my life. I stared at the ceiling for hours, my mind racing through everything. Every time he shifted, I tensed, wondering if he could somehow sense that I knew. The next morning, I told Marcus I had an early meeting with a potential client. "Big fish," I said casually over coffee. "Could be a $3 million listing." "That's my girl," he said, kissing the top of my head before leaving for his own office. Knock 'em dead. Instead, I drove to Catherine Hartman's office in downtown Greenwich. Her office was on the third floor of an elegant building, all glass and steel, professional, successful, intimidating, exactly what I needed. Catherine herself was in her early 50s, with sharp eyes and perfectly cut gray hair. She shook my hand firmly and gestured to a chair across from her desk. "Show me what you have," she said simply. I handed her my phone with the photos, watched her scroll through them, her expression never changing. When she finished, she set the phone down and looked at me directly. "This is good," she said. "Very good. DNA proof of infidelity and a secret child. Evidence of financial misconduct. Transferring marital assets without your knowledge or consent. In Connecticut, which is an equitable distribution state, this works heavily in your favor." "What does that mean exactly?" I asked. "It means that instead of a 50-50 split, we can argue for you to receive 65 to 75% of marital assets. And we can demand reimbursement for all the money he transferred without your authorization. $4,500 a month for 13 years. That's $702,000. With interest and penalties, we could be looking at close to $850,000 in restitution alone." The numbers made my head spin. He took almost $1 million from our accounts? "From your business, most likely," Catherine said. "Which makes it worse, legally. That's not just marital assets, that's assets you generated through your own work." She leaned forward. "Vivian, what's your total marital estate worth approximately?" "The house is worth $3.2 million. My business is valued at around $5 million. We have investment accounts totaling about $2 million. So roughly $10 million total." Catherine's eyes gleamed. "Then we're looking at you potentially walking away with $7 to $7.5 million, plus the restitution. But I need more evidence first. We need to document everything before he has a chance to hide assets." "What do you need me to do?" "First, I'm hiring a private investigator, best in the business. He'll document your husband's movements, his visits to this woman and child, everything. Second, you need to gather financial documents, bank statements, tax returns, investment records, business documents. Can you do that without him noticing?" "Most of it's in my office at home. I handle most of our finances anyway." "Perfect. Third, and this is crucial, you cannot let him know you suspect anything. Can you continue living with him, acting normal, until we have everything we need?" I thought about it. The idea of pretending for days, maybe weeks, made me feel sick. But the alternative, confronting him now and watching him scramble to hide assets and cover his tracks, was worse. Yes, I said firmly. I can do it. Good, Catherine said. Because Vivian, if we do this right, he's going to lose everything. Not just the money, his reputation, his standing in the community, the respect of his children. Men like your husband think they're untouchable. They think they're smarter than everyone else. But they always make mistakes. And we're going to find every single one. I left Catherine's office feeling something I hadn't felt since finding those photos. Hope. Not hope for my marriage, obviously, but hope for justice. Hope that I could come out of this devastation with my dignity and my financial security intact. The private investigator Catherine hired worked fast. His name was Richard Chen, and within 72 hours, he handed me a folder that made everything horrifyingly real. Photos of Marcus leaving a modest apartment building in Stamford at 6 a.m. Multiple dates. Photos of him having breakfast at a diner with a woman I recognized from the letters, Amanda Walsh. Photos of him at a school, presumably picking up Serena. Photos of them at a park, Marcus pushing a young girl on a swing. He visits every Tuesday evening, Richard told me in his matter-of-fact way. Stays overnight most times. Tells Amanda he has early morning meetings. He also sees them most Saturday afternoons, usually takes the girl to activities, piano lessons, movies, lunch. Every Tuesday. I thought back to all those Tuesday nights when Marcus said he was staying in the city for early meetings. All those Saturday afternoons when he claimed he was playing golf or meeting clients. He's careful, Richard continued. Always parks his car in a garage a block away. Uses cash for most things when he's with them. But he's gotten comfortable over the years. Sloppy. Here's his phone records showing regular calls to Amanda Walsh. Here's credit card statements showing purchases at a children's clothing store, a toy store, piano music shop. How did you get his phone records? I asked. Richard just smiled. It's better if you don't know the details, Mrs. Ashford. Let's just say everything here is admissible in court. I took the folder home and hid it in my office safe. That night, Marcus came home cheerful, kissing me hello, asking about my day. It was a Tuesday. He'd just come from her apartment. How was golf? I asked, keeping my voice casual. Great, he said easily. Beat Henderson by 3 strokes. The lie came so effortlessly to him. No hesitation, no guilt visible on his face. Just a smooth, practiced deception. Over the next week, I gathered every financial document I could find. Bank statements going back 15 years, tax returns, investment records, business documents. I scanned everything and sent it to Catherine through encrypted email. And I waited. Waited for Catherine to build her case. Waited for the right moment. And pretended. Pretended when Marcus and I had dinner with friends and everyone commented on what a strong marriage we had. Pretended when he reached for my hand while watching TV. Pretended when he told me he loved me. Claire stayed for those first few days, her presence a comfort. But she eventually had to go back to Boston for work. Are you sure you'll be okay alone with him? She asked before leaving. I'll be fine, I assured her. Helena checks on me. Helena had been a lifeline. She'd stopped coming to work those first few days, terrified of Marcus, but I'd called her and assured her that I was handling it. She came back, and we'd developed a silent understanding. She'd catch my eye sometimes with a questioning look, and I'd nod slightly to let her know I was okay. 10 days after I found the trunk, something unexpected happened. My phone rang from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Mrs. Ashford? A woman's voice, unfamiliar. This is Amanda Walsh. My blood ran cold. How did you get this number? From Marcus's phone while he was in the shower, she said bluntly. We need to talk. I don't think we have anything to discuss, I said, my voice icy. Actually, we do, she said. There was something in her tone, not apologetic, but not hostile either. Resigned, maybe. Marcus has been lying to both of us. I think you deserve to know the truth. The truth? I almost laughed. I know the truth. You've been sleeping with my husband for 13 years. He told me you had a dead marriage, Amanda said quietly. He told me you slept in separate bedrooms. He told me you were waiting for your kids to finish college before divorcing. He told me that 3 years ago he'd be able to acknowledge Serena publicly and we could be a real family. But that keeps not happening. And last month, I saw photos of you two at some charity event, looking like the perfect couple, kissing for the cameras. That's when I knew everything he told me was a lie. I processed this information slowly. Marcus had lied to her too, fed her a story about our marriage being over, strung her along with promises he never intended to keep. Why are you calling me? I asked. Because Serena deserves better than being someone's dirty secret, Amanda said, and I heard real emotion in her voice now. She's 12 years old, and she knows her father is ashamed of her. She knows he can't take her to school events or introduce her to his family or post pictures with her. Do you know what that does to a kid? To know you're something to be hidden? Despite myself, despite everything, I felt a pang of sympathy for this child I'd never met. That's not my fault, I said. I know, Amanda said. It's his, and I think you should know what kind of man you're married to. Not just that he cheated, but that he's been playing both of us for over a decade, using both of us. What do you want? I asked. To meet, she said simply. Face to face. I think we both deserve to know the full truth. Every instinct told me this was a bad idea, but curiosity won out. Where? Coffee shop in Norwalk, she said. Neutral territory. Tomorrow at 2? Fine, I said, but come alone. I'm bringing Serena, Amanda said firmly. She deserves to meet you. She deserves to know her father's real family exists. She hung up before I could protest. I sat there staring at my phone, my heart racing. Was this a trap? Was Marcus behind this somehow? I called Catherine. Amanda Walsh just called me. She wants to meet. Don't go, Catherine said immediately. It's too risky. I think I need to, I said slowly. She said Marcus lied to her too, that he promised to leave me years ago and never did. Catherine, what if she's willing to testify? There was a pause. If the mistress testifies against him, especially about promises he made, that's powerful. But Vivian, be careful. She could be working with him. I'll be careful, I promised. The next day, I drove to the coffee shop in Norwalk. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. I was about to meet my husband's mistress and his secret daughter. How had my life come to this? Amanda was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table, and next to her was Serena. The girl looked up as I approached, and I had to catch my breath. She had Marcus's eyes, his chin, the same way his mouth curved. She was undeniably his daughter. Mrs. Ashford, Amanda stood up. She was younger than me, late 30s, with dark hair and tired eyes, pretty, but worn down by life. Thank you for coming. I sat down across from them, my eyes drawn to Serena. The girl stared back at me with a mixture of curiosity and hostility. You're the reason my dad can't live with us, Serena said suddenly, her voice accusatory. He says he has to stay with you because of his other kids. The directness of children. I didn't know how to respond. Serena, that's not how it works, Amanda said gently. Then to me, I'm sorry. She's angry. She has a right to be. I didn't know you existed until a week ago, I said, looking at Serena. Your father never told me about you. He said you knew, Serena said, confusion crossing her face. He said you didn't want him to bring me around. Another lie, of course. No, I said quietly. I didn't know. I looked at Amanda. Why did you really want to meet? Amanda took a deep breath. Because I'm done, she said simply. I'm done being lied to. I'm done letting my daughter think she's not good enough to be acknowledged. And I'm done protecting a man who's been using both of us. She pulled out a folder from her bag. These are copies of every email, every text message, every promise Marcus made me over the years. Promises to leave you, promises to make us a real family, all lies. She pushed the folder across the table to me. I figure if you're going to divorce him, and I'm guessing you are, you might want ammunition. And Serena deserves to know the truth about her father, not the fairy tale he's been feeding her. I opened the folder. Emails spanning years. Just a few more months and I can tell Vivian. Be patient, darling. Once Daniel graduates, I'll make the announcement. Soon we'll be together properly. I promise. All lies, all manipulation. I looked at Amanda with new understanding. She wasn't my enemy. She was another victim of Marcus's elaborate deceptions. Will you testify? I asked quietly. If it comes to divorce court? Amanda looked at Serena, then back at me. Yes, she said firmly. I'll tell them everything. I took Amanda's folder to Catherine's office the next morning. She read through the emails and text messages, her expression growing more satisfied with each page. This is gold, Catherine said finally. Absolute gold. He's been promising to leave you for years in writing. This proves deliberate, long-term deception, and the mistress is willing to testify against him? Yes, I confirmed. She's angry. She feels used. Good, Catherine said bluntly. Anger makes people tell the truth. Vivian, I think we have everything we need. The question is, are you ready? Was I ready? Ready to blow up my life completely? Ready to face Marcus and watch everything crumble? Yes, I said. I'm ready. Then here's what we're going to do. Catherine leaned forward. I'm going to have divorce papers drawn up today. Tomorrow, you're going to serve him. But before you do that, we're going to freeze all joint accounts. We're going to file an emergency motion for exclusive possession of the marital home. We're going to hit him with everything at once, so he doesn't have time to hide assets or prepare a defense. Won't he be at work tomorrow? I asked. Even better. Catherine smiled coldly. We'll serve him at his office, in front of his colleagues, let everyone see what kind of man he really is. The vindictive part of me, the part that had been swallowing rage for 2 weeks, loved this idea, but another part of me hesitated. That seems cruel. Catherine looked at me seriously. Vivian, he maintained a secret family for 13 years. He stole almost $1 million from you. He threatened your housekeeper with deportation to keep her quiet. He lied to you, to his mistress, to his secret daughter. He doesn't deserve your consideration of his feelings. She was right. I knew she was right. Okay, I said. Do it. One more thing, Catherine said. You need to tell your children before we serve him. They should hear it from you first. I'd been dreading this. Claire already knew, but Daniel, my son who idolized his father, didn't. How do you tell your 23-year-old son that his hero is a fraud? I called Daniel that afternoon. Can you come home tonight? It's important. Mom, I have class tomorrow morning, he protested. Can't it wait until the weekend? No, I said firmly. It can't. Please, Daniel. Something in my voice must have convinced him. Okay, he said slowly. I'll drive down after my last class. Should be there by 8. I called Claire too. I'm telling Daniel tonight. Can you be here? I'm already on my way, she said. That evening, the 3 of us sat in my home office while Marcus was in his study, oblivious. Daniel looked between Claire and me, clearly confused about why this secret meeting was necessary. What's going on? He asked. Is someone sick? No one's sick, I said quietly. But there's something you need to know. Daniel, your father has been having an affair. Daniel's face went blank. What? For 13 years, I continued, forcing myself to say the words. He has a daughter with another woman. Her name is Serena. She's 12 years old. That's not possible, Daniel said immediately. Dad wouldn't. He's not that kind of person. I have proof, I said gently. I showed him the photos on my phone, the paternity test, the bank statements, watched his face cycle through denial, shock, anger, and finally heartbreak. He has another daughter, Daniel said slowly, as if testing the words. I have a half-sister I've never met. Yes, I said. For 13 years, he continued, his voice getting harder. While we were growing up, while he was coaching my baseball games and helping me with college applications, he had another family. Yes, I repeated. Daniel stood up abruptly. I'm going to talk to him. Daniel, wait, I grabbed his arm. I'm serving him with divorce papers tomorrow. You can confront him then if you want, but tonight, I need you to stay calm. Can you do that? He looked at me, his jaw tight. My son, who looked so much like Marcus, but who I prayed had more integrity. I don't know if I can be in the same house as him right now, he admitted. Then stay with Claire tonight, I suggested. Get a hotel, but please, don't tell him anything yet. Daniel nodded slowly. Does he know that you know? No, I said, and that's going to be my advantage tomorrow. Both my children left shortly after, claiming they were going to dinner together. Marcus waved goodbye from his study, never suspecting that his son now knew the truth and could barely look at him. That night was the last night Marcus and I would spend under the same roof. I lay in bed next to him, wide awake, thinking about everything that was about to change. Tomorrow, the bomb would drop. Tomorrow, everyone would know. Tomorrow, the life we'd built together would officially end. Marcus reached over in his sleep and put his arm around me, pulling me close like he'd done for 28 years. It was automatic, unconscious. For a moment, just a brief, painful moment, I remembered what it felt like when I thought this was real. When I believed we were solid, unbreakable, forever. Then I remembered Serena's face, the way she'd said, "You're the reason my dad can't live with us." The hurt in her voice, the confusion, the anger. I carefully removed Marcus's arm and moved to my side of the bed. No more pretending, no more lies. Tomorrow, everything would come out. I didn't sleep at all that night, just watched the clock tick toward morning, toward the moment when Marcus would walk into his office and be handed papers that would destroy the careful illusion he'd spent 13 years constructing. At 6 a.m, Marcus's alarm went off. He got up, showered, dressed in one of his expensive Italian suits. Came to kiss me goodbye like every other morning. "Big day today," he said cheerfully. "Henderson meeting at 10. Should close the deal." "Good luck," I said, my voice steady. "Love you," he said automatically, already thinking about his day. I didn't say it back. He didn't even notice. After he left, I called Catherine. He just left for the office. "Process server will be there by 9, Catherine confirmed. "Are you ready for what comes next?" "Yes," I said, and I meant it. By 9:30, my phone rang. Marcus. I let it ring. He called 3 more times, then texted, "We need to talk, now." So he knew. He'd been served. It was done. I texted back, "Come home. We'll talk here." This was it, the point of no return. The moment where everything I'd been planning for 2 weeks would either work perfectly or fall apart. I called Helena. "Can you come over? I need a witness for what's about to happen." "I'll be right there, Mrs. Ashford," she said. And I waited for my husband to come home and face the consequences of 13 years of lies. Helena arrived 20 minutes before Marcus did. She looked terrified, her hands shaking as she stood in my living room. "Mrs. Ashford, are you sure about this?" she asked quietly. "He's going to be very angry." "I'm sure," I said. "And Helena, I want you to know, I've already spoken to an immigration attorney about your visa situation. Whatever Marcus threatened you with, it's being handled. You're going to be fine." Tears filled her eyes. "You did that for me?" "You saved me," I said simply. "This is the least I can do." I heard his car in the driveway. My heart started racing, but I forced myself to stay calm. I'd been planning this moment for 2 weeks. I was ready. Marcus burst through the front door. His face was red, his expensive suit wrinkled from the drive home. He was holding the divorce papers, crumpled in his fist. "What the hell is this?" he shouted, waving the papers at me. Then he saw Helena. "What is she doing here?" "She's a witness," I said calmly. "Sit down, Marcus. We need to talk." "A witness?" he laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Vivian, what is going on? This is insane. Divorce papers, served at my office in front of my entire team. Do you have any idea what you've done?" "I know exactly what I've done," I said. "Sit down." "I'm not sitting down," he exploded. "You're going to explain this right now. What kind of game are you playing?" I walked to my office and came back with a manila folder, set it on the coffee table between us. "I found your trunk in the attic," I said quietly. 2 weeks ago. The color drained from his face, just like Helena's had that day. But while Helena's had been fear for me, Marcus's was fear for himself. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said, but his voice had lost its certainty. I opened the folder, started laying out photos on the table. Marcus with a baby, Marcus with a toddler, Marcus at birthday parties, school recitals, casual dinners, Marcus with Serena through the years. "Her name is Serena Walsh," I said. "She's 12 years old. She's your daughter." Marcus stared at the photos, his jaw working. "Vivian, I can explain," he started. "Can you?" I interrupted. "Can you explain 13 years of lying? Can you explain $700,000 taken from our accounts without my knowledge? Can you explain threatening Helena with deportation to keep her quiet?" Helena made a small sound. Marcus's eyes snapped to her, and I saw real fury there. "You told her," he said to Helena, his voice low and dangerous. "Don't look at her," I said sharply. "Don't even think about it. Her visa situation is already being handled by an immigration attorney I hired. You have no power over her anymore." Marcus's attention came back to me. I saw him calculating, trying to figure out how to spin this, how to minimize the damage. "It was a mistake," he said finally, sitting down heavily. "A terrible mistake that happened 13 years ago. I was going through something, a midlife crisis, I guess. You were so focused on the business, working all the time, and I felt invisible. I met Amanda at a hotel bar during a business conference. It was supposed to be one night, just one night of feeling wanted again." "One night," I repeated flatly. "That resulted in a child you've been supporting for 12 years. When she told me she was pregnant, what was I supposed to do?" Marcus spread his hands. "I couldn't just abandon her. I took responsibility." "You took responsibility," I said, and I could hear the ice in my own voice. "Is that what you call maintaining a secret family? Lying to me every single day for 13 years? Using our money, my money, to support them without telling me?" "I was trying to do the right thing," Marcus insisted. "I couldn't just leave Serena without support. She's innocent in all this." "And what about me?" I asked. "What about our marriage, our children? Were we just, what, the inconvenient family you couldn't get rid of?" "That's not fair," Marcus said. "I love you. I've always loved you. Amanda she was a mistake I had to manage, but you're my wife. You're my real family." "Really?" I pulled out more papers, Amanda's emails. "Because according to these, you've been promising Amanda for years that you'd leave me. Just a few more months," you told her. "Once the kids are older," you said. "Soon we'll be together properly." Were those promises to manage her too? Marcus's face went white. "Where did you get those?" "Amanda gave them to me," I said. "We had a very interesting conversation. Turns out she's tired of being lied to as well. She's willing to testify in court about all the promises you made her, all the lies you told both of us." "You met with her?" Marcus stood up again, agitated. "You had no right to involve her in this." "I had no right?" I stood up too, my voice rising for the first time. Marcus, you had no right to cheat on me. You had no right to father a child with another woman while married to me. You had no right to steal $700,000 from our accounts. You had no right to threaten Helena. Don't you dare talk to me about rights. It wasn't stealing, Marcus said desperately. It was our money. I had every right to use it. Actually, according to my attorney, you didn't, I said. Most of that money came from my business. And using marital assets to support an affair and a secret child without the other spouse's knowledge is considered misappropriation in Connecticut. You're going to have to pay it all back. Marcus stared at me like he didn't recognize me. What happened to you? He asked. You were never this cold. I learned from the best, I said. 13 years of watching you lie so smoothly, so effortlessly. 13 years of you maintaining two completely separate lives without breaking a sweat. You taught me well, Marcus. Vivian, please. He shifted tactics, his voice becoming softer, more pleading. We can work through this. I know I made mistakes, terrible mistakes, but we've been together for 28 years. We have children together, a life together. Doesn't that mean something to you? It did, I said quietly. It meant everything to me. But it turns out it was all built on lies. Every anniversary we celebrated, every time you told me you loved me, every family photo we took, all of it was a performance. You were never really there. Half of you was always somewhere else. That's not true, Marcus said. I was here. I showed up. I was a good father to Claire and Daniel. Were you? I asked. Because Daniel knows now. I told him last night. Do you know what that knowledge has done to him? His hero, his role model, the man he wanted to be like? Turns out you're a fraud. Claire knows too. They both know that while you were coaching Daniel's baseball games and helping Claire with college applications, you had another daughter you were keeping secret. How do you think that makes them feel? The mention of our children seemed to hit Marcus harder than anything else. You told them, he whispered. How could you tell them? How could you do this to them? I shot back. They had a right to know who their father really is. Not the facade you've been presenting, but the real you. The man who's capable of sustaining elaborate lies for over a decade. Marcus sat back down, his head in his hands. This will destroy everything, he said. My reputation, my career, my relationship with the kids. Yes, I agreed. It probably will. But Marcus, you did this. Not me. You made these choices every single day for 13 years. He looked up at me, and I saw something in his eyes shift. The pleading stopped. His expression hardened. Fine, he said coldly. You want a divorce? You'll get one. But don't think for a second that I'm just going to roll over. Half of this estate is mine. Half of your precious business is mine. I contributed to building all of this. There it was. The real Marcus. Not the pleading husband, not the remorseful cheater, but the calculating man who'd been living a double life for years. Actually, I said calmly, my attorney thinks I'll get about 70%, maybe 75%. Connecticut doesn't look kindly on infidelity and financial misconduct. And with Amanda willing to testify, with all the evidence of promises you made and lies you told, with proof that you threatened Helena to keep your secrets, I let the sentence hang. You can't take everything from me, Marcus said, his voice rising again. I worked for that money. I invested our assets wisely. Your business grew because of my financial advice. Did it? I asked. Or did it grow because I worked 70-hour weeks while you used that time to build your secret life? Because I networked relentlessly while you were visiting Amanda and Serena? Because I made smart business decisions while you were too distracted managing your lies to focus on your own career? This is vindictive, Marcus spat. This isn't about justice, it's about revenge. You want to punish me. Maybe I do, I admitted, but mostly, I want what's fair. You took 13 years of my life. 13 years where I could have made different choices if I'd known the truth. You took $700,000 without my permission. You damaged my children's ability to trust. You turned our entire marriage into a lie. So yes, Marcus, you're going to pay for that. Financially, socially, and personally. Marcus stood up abruptly. I'm calling my own attorney, he said. We'll see what the court actually says. Please do, I said. Catherine Hartman is looking forward to taking on whoever you hire. She hasn't lost a case in 5 years. Marcus froze. Catherine Hartman? You hired Catherine Hartman? I smiled slightly. I told you, I learned from the best. You taught me to plan ahead, to think strategically, to never show my hand until I have all the pieces in place. You've been planning this, Marcus said slowly, realization dawning. That day, Helena found the trunk. You've known for 2 weeks and you've been planning this whole time. Acting normal, sleeping next to me, pretending everything was fine. Yes, I said simply. Just like you pretended for 13 years. The difference is, I only had to pretend for 2 weeks. You're much better at it than I am. Marcus looked at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. Maybe the Vivian he married, trusting, accommodating, always putting everyone else first, had died the day Helena warned me to leave the house. I need to get some things, Marcus said finally. My clothes, my personal items. The judge granted me exclusive possession of the house, I said. You can come back tomorrow with a police escort to collect your belongings. But right now, you need to leave. This is my house too, Marcus said. Not anymore, I said firmly. Leave, Marcus, before I call the police myself. For a moment, I thought he might refuse. We stood there, staring at each other across the wreckage of 28 years of marriage. This man I'd loved since I was 22. This man who'd given me 2 beautiful children. This man who'd lied to me every single day for 13 years. I'll fight you on this, Marcus said quietly. Every single aspect. I'll make it as difficult as possible. I expected nothing less, I replied. Marcus grabbed his car keys from the table and walked to the door. At the threshold, he turned back one more time. I did love you, Vivian. I know you don't believe that now, but I did. I do. Love isn't just a feeling, Marcus, I said. It's a choice you make every single day. And for 13 years, you chose to lie to me. That's not love. I don't know what it is, but it's not love. He left without another word. I heard his car start, heard him drive away. And just like that, my marriage was over. Helena was crying quietly in the corner. I walked over to her and took her hands. Thank you, I said. Thank you for being brave enough to tell me. Thank you for being here today. You were so strong, Mrs. Ashford, Helena said through her tears. I was so scared he would hurt you. He can't hurt me anymore, I said. And as I said it, I realized it was true. The worst had already happened. The revelation, the betrayal, the destruction of everything I thought was true. What came next? The divorce proceedings, the property division, the social fallout. None of it could hurt as much as that moment in the attic when I first saw those photographs. I had survived that. I would survive the rest. The divorce proceedings took 6 months. 6 months of lawyers and depositions and financial disclosures. Marcus fought every single point, just like he'd promised. He hired an expensive attorney and tried to argue that the business was joint property, that he'd contributed equally to our success, that I was being vindictive and unreasonable. But Catherine Hartman was better. She presented every piece of evidence methodically. The photographs from the trunk, the bank statements showing unauthorized transfers, Amanda's testimony about the promises Marcus had made, Helena's testimony about his threats, Richard's surveillance photos, the emails and text messages. The judge was a woman in her 60s who listened to everything with an impassive expression. When Marcus's attorney tried to argue that his client had been a supportive husband who'd helped build the real estate business, she actually raised an eyebrow. Mr. Henderson, she said to Marcus's lawyer. "Are you seriously arguing that your client supported his wife's business while simultaneously diverting nearly $800,000 of marital assets to support a secret family for over a decade? The final settlement gave me 73% of the marital estate. I got the house, which I sold immediately. I got full ownership of my business. I got most of the investment accounts." And Marcus was ordered to repay $820,000 in misappropriated funds, plus interest, plus my legal fees. In total, I walked away with approximately $7 million. Marcus got just under $3 million and the obligation to continue supporting Serena, now under court-monitored child support rather than secret payments. But the money wasn't even the most satisfying part. The most satisfying part was watching Marcus's carefully constructed reputation crumble. News of the divorce spread through our social circle like wildfire. People who'd admired him, who'd thought he was a model husband and father, now knew the truth. He was asked to step down from the board of directors at his firm. Several of his biggest clients moved their accounts elsewhere. People who'd once sought his advice now avoided him at social functions. My reputation, surprisingly, got stronger. Women in our community rallied around me. My business actually grew because people admired how I'd handled everything: the strategic planning, the refusal to be a victim, the way I'd rebuilt. Claire and Daniel struggled with it all, of course. Daniel especially had a hard time reconciling the father he'd idolized with the man who'd lied so elaborately. They went to therapy, separately and together. Slowly, painfully, they began to process it. The surprising development was Serena. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, Amanda called me. "Serena wants to meet her half-siblings," she said hesitantly. "If that's okay with you." I talked to Claire and Daniel about it. Claire was immediately open to the idea. "She's our sister," Claire said simply, "and none of this is her fault." Daniel took longer to come around, but eventually agreed. "I guess I want to know her," he admitted. "She's part of this whole mess, too." That first meeting was awkward. We met at a park in neutral territory. Me, Claire, Daniel, Amanda, and Serena. Marcus wasn't there. We'd all agreed he'd forfeited the right to orchestrate this reunion. Serena was shy at first, clearly uncomfortable, but Claire, bless her heart, broke the ice. "So our dad says you're really good at piano," she said to Serena. "I always wanted to learn, but I'm tone deaf." "I could teach you," Serena offered tentatively. And just like that, the conversation started flowing. Daniel showed Serena pictures of Marcus from when they were kids, photos she'd never seen. Serena talked about her school, her friends, her life. She asked questions about Claire and Daniel's childhoods, hungry for any information about the family she'd been kept separate from. I watched them together and felt something unexpected. Not anger, not resentment, but sadness for all the years they could have known each other. Marcus's lies had hurt everyone. Serena most of all, growing up thinking she was a shameful secret. Amanda and I talked while the kids bonded. "I'm sorry," she said quietly, "for all of it. I know I wasn't blameless." "You were lied to, too," I said. "It was easier to be generous now that everything was settled. He told you what you needed to hear to keep you compliant, just like he did with me." "Still," Amanda said, "I should have questioned it more. I should have looked harder at the situation." "Maybe," I agreed. "But he's very good at lying. 13 years of practice will do that." Over the following months, Claire and Daniel developed a relationship with Serena. They weren't close exactly, too much history, too much complexity, but they were friendly. They texted occasionally, met up every few months, made an effort. Marcus, from what I heard through the kids, was struggling. His relationship with Daniel was strained. Claire kept him at arm's length. Even Serena, who'd once idolized him, now saw him more clearly. The revelation that he'd lied to everyone, not just me but Amanda and Serena too, had damaged her trust in him. "He keeps trying to explain," Daniel told me once, "trying to justify it, but there's no justification for what he did. and I think that's finally starting to sink in for him. As for me, I sold the Greenwich mansion and bought a beautiful penthouse in Manhattan, closer to Claire. Helena came to work for me full-time, not as a housekeeper, but as my executive assistant. Her visa situation had been resolved with the help of the immigration attorney I'd hired, and she was on a path to citizenship. "Mrs. Ashford," she said one day, we were in my new home office going over my schedule, "I can never thank you enough for what you did for me." "Helena," I said, "you can thank me by stopping calling me Mrs. Ashford. It's Vivian, and you saved my life that day in the attic. You were the brave one." "We saved each other," she said softly. And maybe that was true. Helena had given me the warning I needed, and I'd given her the security and opportunity she deserved. My business continued to thrive. Without the drain of Marcus's secret payments, without the emotional weight of living a lie, I found I had more energy, more focus, more drive. I expanded to 2 new offices, hired 5 more agents, closed deals I never would have attempted before. People asked me sometimes how I'd moved on so quickly. The truth was, I hadn't moved on. I'd moved forward. There's a difference. Moving on suggests leaving something behind completely. Moving forward means taking the lessons with you. I learned that I was stronger than I'd ever known. I learned that trust, once broken so completely, changes you fundamentally. I learned that sometimes the people we love most are strangers wearing familiar faces. I learned that women who seem to have nothing in common, like Helena and me, can save each other's lives. And I learned that happiness doesn't require perfection. My life wasn't perfect anymore. I was a 56-year-old divorced woman, living alone, with complicated adult children and a family structure that required flowcharts to explain. But I was happy, genuinely happy, because this life, messy and complicated as it was, belonged entirely to me. No lies, no deception, no more pretending. A year after the divorce was finalized, I ran into Marcus at a charity event. It was the first time we'd been in the same room since he'd left our house. He looked older, tired, diminished somehow. "Vivienne," he said quietly, "you look well." "I am well," I said simply. "I heard about your expansion," he continued. "Congratulations." "Thank you." An awkward pause. Then he said, "I am sorry, for what I did. I know you don't believe that, but it's true." I looked at him, really looked at him. This man I'd spent 28 years with, this man who'd given me 2 children, this man who'd broken my heart and my trust so thoroughly. "I believe you're sorry," I said finally. "I believe you regret getting caught. I believe you miss the life you had. But Marcus, if you'd never been caught, you'd still be living that double life. So your apology, while probably sincere, doesn't really mean much to me." "That's fair," he said quietly. "I hope you find peace with what you did," I said. "I really do. But that's your journey now, not mine. My journey is forward." I walked away from him that night and felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness, not even satisfaction. Just nothing. He'd become a stranger who'd once meant something, a chapter in my story that was firmly closed. That's how I knew I'd truly survived it. The betrayal, the lies, the destruction of everything I'd thought was true. I'd survived it all and come out stronger. And if I could survive that, I could survive anything.